Hi, Paul. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. I'm excited to be speaking with you today.
Thanks. Excited to be here, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
I think you have a very interesting angle to provide to our podcast because of your domain expertise while running an organization. While at the same time, marketing and sales is something that you've picked up along the way in being in practice. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your organization. What does a day in the life of Paul look like?
Okay, I don't know how much of my backstory you want, Andrew, but brief rewind. I moved to DFW area, Dallas, Texas, in 2015, and opened up my own shop with just me. And my marketing was just basically, hey, I think it was called Google AdWords at the time. That sounds good. So I threw some money down the toilet at that because I had no idea what I was doing. And I don't think it makes sense for a one-person operation, anyways. But I did that and um, put myself on something called Psychology Today, which is a big online directory for therapists, the biggest one, I think, and kind of started from there. Got myself a little office space, and that was it. That was for the most part what I did for marketing until 2017, where I filled up enough to where it made sense to bring on another therapist and start funneling clients to them. So along the way, we have picked up digital marketing firms that have helped out here and there. I often find them very helpful, but also very expensive. But they definitely taught me that I know even less than I thought I knew. And so I tend to try to do a lot of it myself, but I've learned some things along the way. And Google Ads assigns you people from time to time sporadically that kind of help along the way, sometimes hurt more than they help. But most of the time, it has really been me just doing whatever I can to try to
Mhm.
get new clients in the office for our therapists. So we're up to 6 locations and 17 different therapists of a variety of specializations and a variety of issues that they want to treat. And so it's really just trying to figure out what's the right mix of marketing strategies in order to get
Mhm.
new clients in the door that are a good fit for our therapists and our services.
I would love to get into your own psychology of back then. What prompted you to think Psychology Today or Google AdWords was going to be a good marketing channel? And I say that because my dad's a dentist. He would have no idea to even go and do Google AdWords or Psychology Day. He would have more of the if we build it, they will come approach to marketing. But you definitely had some instinct or intuition that guided you down that route.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd, a tech nerd, data nerd, and I love getting into the digital component of anything and everything. So when I moved here I'm from Texas originally, but I moved here from Maryland where I had been in someone else's practice for a few years. So I kind of got to see what they did well, what they did that I wanted to do differently. And so I definitely got a sense from other people in the industry that Psychology Today was just a no-brainer. It's $30 a month, and I have seen, and I know I've had colleagues that have seen that that gives the best return on investment out of pretty much any marketing efforts that you can invest in as a therapist. So I started there. $30 a month is pretty reasonable. And then Google Ads was, I think, just when I started. I don't know if you know this, Andrew. I'm sure you do. There are lots of, for every industry, there is some service, some site somewhere that says, hey, start with us and we'll build
Mhm.
you a website and maintain it and give you SEO boosts for free for
Right.
49.99 a month or whatever it is, which means it's like a cookie cutter basic website with some basic meta tags in it for the most part. But it's a start, and so in those you go to webinars and they have little seminars and things like that. And one of the things that they recommended looking into was Google AdWords. So
Mhm.
that's how I started into that, and then that is way more my speed than face-to-face B2B marketing,
Mhm.
Andrew. So I could dive into I still do. I could dive into the numbers all day, every day on campaigns and different ads, and whether it's now Performance Max, which is AI driven, or search campaigns or remarketing campaigns. Like I could do that all day, every day. The hard part is, of course, narrowing it down to where it actually leads to new clients that walk in the
Mhm.
door. I still struggle with that. I've had
Mhm.
digital marketing firms struggle with that. But that's kind of a little snapshot of how I got into even why psychology today and why
Mhm.
Google Ads.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on some overall marketing principles that guide your practice. And so I'm going to use this example. Right up here is a WrestleMania WWE belt I bought for my bachelor party at WrestleMania. Last second purchase. I just went to Amazon, found the cheapest one I could buy that would be there within a day. This microphone, I really kind of did the same thing, went to Amazon, saw some good reviews, found something that was an okay price, and it was a one-click purchase. But you're in a space of mental health, and it's a much more vulnerable place for someone to commit to working with you, and it's more expensive than a cheap fake plastic belt you can buy on Amazon. So your marketing has to be different. So can you share a little bit about just some principles that guide your marketing strategy?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts, Andrew. I think one of the primary goals or emphasis points that I wanted to do was one of the things, if you talk to enough therapists, Andrew, you'll learn is a lot of us are so focused on helping people that
Mhm.
we're historically, I think, in my experience, terrible business people for the most part, which is why I love doing it because I get to help other therapists who are not so great at the business end or don't want anything to do with it. But because of that, a lot of times we don't know our worth. We work too much to make too little, or we give it away. We do too many pro bono clients or too many sliding
Mhm.
scales. So my model is generally built on you get what you pay for
Mhm.
on the client side. So for me, when we're trying to acquire customers or clients, we're looking for people that would rather pay more for high quality therapy that hopefully is going to be helpful quicker and last longer and not need to hopefully come to as many sessions as they may need to at a lower cost or less effective therapist. So that then allows us to pay our therapists better. And so they have to work less hours because we have a ton of therapists come to us, Andrew, that are seeing 30, 40, 50, 60 clients a week and still making 45, 50 grand.
Mhm.
So, uh, and that is not unusual at all in the mental health space. So for us, it's about, hey, you could see less and make the same amount or more, and then not lose your mind. Because one of the reasons why I brought on another therapist in 2017 was I was up to 30 sessions a week, and between that's just in office, right? That's not counting taking notes or doing the business side or anything like that. That's just seeing the clients. And so between that and doing everything else, taking notes and just the emotional toil, it was exhausting. I was like, I cannot do this for the next
Mhm.
10, 20, 30 years. So I bring in other therapists under the assumption that they don't want to burn out either, because then they're not much good to themselves or to their clients if they just burn out and quit, which is pretty frequent, happens a lot in the therapy world. So we're built on, largely speaking, for the therapist benefit and for the client's benefit on a you get what you pay for. So
Mhm.
you're not going to get a cheap rate here, but you're going to get high quality services.
I have a question around cultural trends, and I'm going to hit on a
Oh,
few points here. I'd love to hear how you've addressed this in marketing and messaging, whatever that looks like for you. So, granted, I'm a millennial, so growing up in the '90s, I just heard stories of how therapy, mental health was looked down upon. If you went to a therapist, you were, quote unquote, crazy per se. Flash forward to 2024, it's a cool thing people do. Uh, I've been in so many dialogues of having lunch or dinner or coffee and talking about your therapist as a badge of honor of coolness in some regards. And at the same time, there's advent of life coaches who are not as humbly speaking as qualified as therapists in a lot of regards, who I'm sure take clients who might be better suited for a therapist. And so I'm coming back around to the point of what has it been like to be in an industry that's been more of a cultural norm now in 2024? And also, how do you differentiate in a marketing strategy between yourself and a life coach?
oh, okay.
There's a
Two
lot
two good
there.
questions. Yeah, I'm curious. Question for you: where do you reside?
San Diego.
Okay, so I would say, what did you say? More of a cultural norm. I would say in Dallas, Texas, we're not quite there yet.
Mhm.
It's I would say less stigmatized than before. So it
I
hasn't
could be
gotten
in a
quite
bubble in
to the,
California.
yeah, I've had several California friends basically tell me that's the place to be for therapists because, they say you stub your toe in California, you're like, man, I got to make an appointment with my therapist. So, and then I have another friend who says that in general, but especially in California, did you see the game last night around the water cooler? I don't know how many of us are around a water cooler these days, but if you are, that's been replaced by my therapist said, or my therapist likes to say. So it's definitely become more ubiquitous. I think not just for California people, but in general. But yeah, I would say California is much more of a hotspot for therapy normalization, and coincidentally, it has by far the most therapists out of any state in the country, or not coincidentally. But to your question, it has been, I think, honestly, perfect timing. I think God has really provided an opportunity for me to come into this business at just the right time to be able to succeed and be able to provide a service that a lot of people not only need and have historically needed, but are more likely to actually pursue. I think especially because when I moved in 2015, I asked my practice owner and I asked the state of Maryland, what if I want to take some clients with me virtually? Can I do that?
Mm.
Practice owner said, I have no idea. Asked the state, asked the licensing board, asked the licensing board. And this is 9 years ago, Andrew, not 30 years ago. They literally said to me, we don't have a rule for that. We ask you to use your best judgment. That was their online therapy policy. So I was like, oh, done. My best judgment will be used. So I started out at least with a handful of clients that came with me to Maryland, and every therapist that I added from then on, I required for them to offer telehealth. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways that was obviously fortuitous is when COVID struck, most
Right.
therapists, and I think most businesses were scrambling. We literally just flipped off the in-office option on our electronic health record portal and on our website. We put that we were virtual only until we opened back up. But it was pretty much business as usual. We just moved people that came in office and put them to virtual, and the people that wanted virtual services, well, we were already set up for that. We were already doing that. So it was super advantageous in that way. And then that also answers part of your question as well, in that, man, it's a fantastic time, not only from a business standpoint, but just from a helping standpoint, to be able to help people through COVID. We generally have a limit on number of pro bono clients that we recommend that each of our therapists take on, because again, we're helpers, and sometimes we will
Right.
help people out of an income and not be able to pay our bills. But we lifted that for that year. I think we did, I don't know what it was, like $75,000 and
Wow.
free therapy for our clients and for new clients that just couldn't afford it because COVID was crazy. And so it's really been fascinating to see. I have a side project, it's a mental health app called Epiphany that also aims at providing mental health care to those who don't have access to it. And it's seen growth because it's a
Mm-hmm.
great time to be a mental health provider, in the sense that people are looking for it now more than ever, partially because mental health needs have just gone up
Mm-hmm.
globally. And then also because of what you're talking about, the kind of the destigmatization of mental health.
I love that answer. I want to switch to your thoughts on, from a marketing standpoint, how do you differentiate yourself as a therapist compared to a life coach?
Well, some of it, we don't necessarily address that directly. Um, I think indirectly we address it because all of our therapists are licensed therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So we are required by the state licensing board in Texas, and I think this is in all states, that in order to market yourself or label yourself as a therapist or a counselor or marriage and family therapist, licensed professional counselor, whatever it might be, you have to hold a clinical license from a state
Mm-hmm.
licensing board. And life coaches do not have that. And so I think, generally speaking, we haven't done a lot to differentiate ourselves. I think for the most part, in my experience of talking to life coaches and talking to clients or friends looking for life coaches, They see that more as a I don't know, a strategic guide or a how-to
Mhm.
guide, coaching just in the word of itself. Whereas they come to therapy to actually work through problems, issues, deep dive into maybe childhood
Mhm.
issues, traumas, things like that that are typically beyond the scope of a coach. But we don't. It's a great question, Andrew. I don't. To my knowledge, we don't technically do anything directly addressing the difference between life coaches and therapists.
I think you answered it in and of itself as it's just like, here's my plaque, here's my credentials,
Yeah, yeah, I think
without
so
being
for the most part.
ignorant to the fact of it.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But in my experience, I think most, I could be wrong on this, but I think most lay people generally get the difference. There's definitely some confusion, which is why most states have required that life coaches are not allowed to in any way indicate that they are certified or
Mhm.
licensed to do psychotherapy or
Right.
professional counseling, that sort of thing. So it's more on their end of not being able to claim it rather than our end of
Gotcha.
having to differentiate from them, from my experience.
I gotcha. So I have a few last questions, and this one is thinking into the future in 2024. What is an area of marketing that gets you excited this year?
Oh, well, I have an answer, but I don't know that I can use the word excited, Andrew. But I've told my team
Change
recently.
excited for interchangeable for something else.
I am focused on for 2024. I am, as I said, kind of a nerd, and I love the digital piece. I'm an introvert, Andrew. So the thought of going to a business and saying, here's our information, let us know if you need anything is horrendous. Like I have no desire to do that whatsoever. So I actually offered for employees to volunteer to form a marketing team with me. And so we've been marketing different ideas. And so we've come up with uh, basically this community outreach program because I hate the idea. I'm just not a self promoter, which I know is not
Mhm.
great to be an entrepreneur and not be a self promoter, Andrew. But what I love is being able to help and give back to the community. So we've come up with this program that instead of we're going and like basically knocking on people's doors saying like, hey, send people to us, whether it's your customers or patients or whoever it might be, and instead doing community outreach, saying, hey, here
Mhm.
are some free resources that we have drafted and we want to give to you, including we'll come and do like a talk with you and your staff to better address mental health in your workplace. And ideally, of course, through that, we become partners,
Mhm.
friends, we have relationships to where you feel comfortable coming to us or sending people to us that come through your doors. But first and foremost, we just want to try to help businesses in the community, whether that be a bank or a doctor's office or whatever it might be in our community near where our practice locations are. So that is the place where I'm most focused on and trying to get excited about.
Well, I hear just a good marketing strategy. So I say that because, and this is what I'm hearing, a lot of good education, trust building, rapport is really important for you to have a healthy client relation. I'll go to another transactional thing I just had this past weekend. Our sink was broken. And so we were eating takeout 3 days, 3 times a day, and it was going on for a few days. And it just got to a point where someone could come Monday and someone could come Sunday, and I didn't care, about any of the business owners. I didn't care about their Yelp reviews, the cost. It was just who can come the quickest, and that's what I'm gonna go with. And I didn't overthink it. So it's a much different type of marketing plan. And for them, it was just, who popped up into Google first, who can come the quickest, and that was the decision.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Sometimes it's about necessity and whenever people can actually be available.
Mhm.
Be as basic as that.
So Paul, I'd love for you to leave us with, websites, best ways to follow up with you. Maybe someone here is, someone who'd want to pursue some of your therapy services, just any ways that we can continue, staying in contact with you.
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's scctherapy.com. Also, StanfordCouplesCounseling.com. They go to the same place, but SEC Therapy is shorter, so we usually use that one. We're on all the different social media platforms as well. If you search for Stanford Couples Counseling, you'll find it on there as well. And that's for people interested in our services. We also have free resources on there for relationship tips, anxiety management, relationship red flags to look for, things like that. You can download for free on there. And then if you're a therapist, especially in Texas, where we haven't branched out beyond Texas, but if you're in anywhere in Texas and you're a therapist that checks out Stanford Couples Counseling and thinks it might be a good fit for you, we have a join us form on there. You can fill out an application if we're always looking for great team members to be a part of our collaborative team of therapists.
Perfect, Paul. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Andrew.